Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Another Diablo 2 run. Whatever fun things shall I encounter now? I sure do hope I get some chicken soup for the soul today. It might help with the entomophobia problems I've been having. Which means I have a fear of doors, cause doors lead outside. And I've heard rumors that everyone who has ever gone outside has died. Oh well, surely that won't happen to me. As you can tell from the Bloodmoor, things are a bit different compared to a normal Bloodmoor. That would be because this is a double enemies run, and by that I mean double boss packs, double the amount of minions per boss pack and double the regular monsters. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking, but Mr. Rabbit sir, that is an upside. It makes the entire game into a Biggie Smalls and it just gives you the loot. Well, if you are equipping your Enigma, Infinity and who knows what else, then yes, yet it is. When you're running around with gear your grandmother wouldn't even try to repair, things get a bit different. However, before I can show you just how different, I need to tell you something. I used to have no friends. I still don't, but I used to as well. Fortunately, I can fill that gap with video games, and I play those using my GameStar controller. If you want to just ignore the real world like me and live in video games, you now can by checking out my link in the pinned comment. With capitalism out of the way, let's show you how I got entomophobia from playing a video game. Just as a reminder, entomophobia is the fear of doors. In the meanwhile, Captain Privilege over here has made his way into the cold plains thanks to the help of the almighty Flavy. Thanks to her help, we make it into the cold plains again. But honestly at this point, even though it is an old friend, I'd rather not see it again. It is just filled to the brim with spearwomen and yetis looking to turn me into a shish kebab. While obviously thriving in the cold plains, I reach level 6. This is an important milestone that everyone who has ever played a paladin before knows. This is the level where you unlock the mighty holy fire. This skill gives your attacks fire damage, and lots of it. Just upon activating this you go from barely doing any damage to wiping out most things in 1 or 2 blows, even on players 8, which is a game mode in which the game pretends there are 8 players in the game, making monsters harder to kill, but netting you more experience and loot as a trade-off. The other thing you get is an aura that pings enemies with fire damage, but once it picks up steam it's going to wipe out entire screens until we get to the enemies with fire resistances. We just ignore Bishibosh though, and we definitely don't mention that we only survive the plains because of going level up while being surrounded. Can't give people the impression this is hard. I need to look skilled and like everything is easy. After having reached level 11, it is time to leave the cold behind us and move into the warmth of a deep dark underground cave. The goal in this cave is to trigger holy fire as often and as quickly as possible. So while you can get scepters with plus skills to holy fire, what I want is to get any weapon that has very fast attack speed. After a few more level ups, the aura is starting to pump up the jam. The pings of fire damage are now at the point where they are taking down enemies, which is resulting in enemies being farmed just for walking near me. To improve my aura I need to get some rune words. To get them I need to say hello to my old friend, the Countess. I greet her by lighting her on fire, which strangely enough works despite her having 2 Ral runes on her person. After a few runs I have the stealth completed, so I create it for its faster run walk and poison resist. Once I have the runes to make a leaf, I create that as well. While a lot of people think this is a sorceress only rune word, it boosts every fire skill in the game, including the lovely holy fire we are using. Before completing the first act I decide that I would pick up the malus along the way through the barracks. The rest of the act wasn't a problem, cause everything in my way just fell over when I huffed and puffed. With all opposition wavering over with a slight gust of wind, I decided to gather some more magic find for myself. Geet gave me some gloves and I decided to treat myself to a nice little shako. A wild Andariel appeared. We used anything even remotely resembling fire. It was super effective. And with that, we are done with Act 1. I say one final goodbye to Charcy to have my boots imbued, granting me some lightning resist and an additional 20 magic find, getting us up all the way to 71, before diving into Act 2. Despite a desert normally being hot, the enemies in the tombs can't take the heat, so I'm claiming the cube as my trophy. We have a small moment of excitement happening in the Maggot lair, when the beetles decide that lots of lightning in a small area is the way to go. But most of Act 2 is just me taking a nice stroll through the Claw Viper Temple while reminiscing about just how balanced Holy Fire is. Duriel, who normally is one of the biggest tanks in the entire game, now, thanks to us being a much higher level than usual, falls after just a few swings as well. Whilst flirting with arachnophilia, after all who knows how many fun things you can do with those extra legs, I picked up a nice 3-socketed shield with some resistances on it. The rest of the jungle isn't very mighty tonight at all, except for me. The spider forest inhabitants swiftly find their exit. Marching on greatly increases the number of souls you encounter along your travels. I did not know it at the time, but this run is going to be quite the soul-filled adventure through Sanctuary. After the marsh comes the Flayer jungle, so let's see how that goes. Okay, yep, that is about how I expected it to go. That works for me. My regular pinging to look for other people in the network gets rewarded when the git bin falls to the floor. However, before giving it to Ormus, I decide to push on through the jungle, which nets me a set belt. This is the Hussarus' belt, a great addition to my gear with its 20 life and 20 cold resistance. One thing that happens with double the monsters is that you have to prepare for trouble, cause they made it double. Who did a double? The dolls, that is who. The second half of Act 3 is filled with them, as I am immediately swarmed by the pink would make for cute plushes of the depths. It's a good thing Hazarde is in their way, because while Holy Fire is a very dominant skill. However, one of its downsides is that it removes the ability to trigger the dolls at your timing, and instead they just pop off whenever they feel like it. Something a lot of people don't know, but can happen, is that dolls can spawn in the Durance level 3. It is a worry I wish I wasn't the wiser to. Before diving into the red swirling portal to the big downstairs Mephisto happened. The run so far has not been hard, but all of that is about to change in Act 4. The enemies here have fire resistance, which in turn means that they aren't dropping like flies anymore. This is a problem, a big one. Instead of just waltzing through everything, I am running around like a headless chicken trying to find an angle of attack, and failing. After that failed attempt, I decided that it was time for some changes. First up, a distraction, in the form of rolling the dice for some new gear. I got lucky and ended up with amazing boots that have 39% cold and 25% fire resist. The second step is taking care of any leftover quests, so I swing my center of attention towards Radamant before having a cleanup in the Den of Evil. All great plans have first steps, where the third one is just a bunch of question marks. This time they turn out to mean a big rebuild of Captain Privileged. Stat wise, it's all fun and games, some strength, some energy and the rest into vitality. Skill wise, we are making our way back to Old Faithful. If the real name of this character wasn't enough of a hint of what will be going all the way up, the skills getting selected on screen should drive it home. So yeah, we are playing a Hammerdin. Well, I am. You are watching me play a Hammerdin. And if you are enjoying that so far, please check if you are subscribed. I know you think you are. But just do me a favor and go check. Every single time I make this joke, it results in tons of people realizing they weren't subscribed while they assumed that button was already pressed. Speaking about assumptions, while the monsters assume they are in charge of Sanctuary, they kind of aren't anymore. Where once the demons told me where and how to stuff things, which usually wasn't in very nice places at all, because the roles have flipped. No longer am I getting stuffed, I am the stuffer. A demon finds something in a place it shouldn't be, and you think that of me? Number. I am the one doing the stuffing. Not to be confused with being the one doing the fluffing, by the way. That is a different website. With my new powers that came with great responsibility, I decided to check if Isual was still doing alright. He wasn't. Along the way to the Hellforge, I picked up a Toll rune and added a few grey hairs to my collection. The Hellforge itself gifted me an Am rune, which is the best one for reasons I'll explain later. I also decided to include a demonstration of why Abyss Knights are awful. After the River of Flame, there is the Chaos Sanctuary. Despite its name, this is the place that makes the most sense to a Hammerdin. Lots of open space, nothing with any magic resistance. Tons of enemies charging straight at you. There is no place in the game where this build feels more at home. The Diablo fight isn't much of a challenge either. I'm just a very over-leveled Blessed Hammer user, and Mr. Demon can keep all of the opinions of that he deems to be reasonable. To himself, that is. I decided to use the soul rune I found to make a lore. Legend has it that this helm has +1 to skills, 30 lightning resist and 7 damage reduction, making it a very worthwhile piece of headwear that never goes out of style. The Shank quest is a nice point to start off Act 5 with. It is the first quest after all. His defeat grants me a socket quest and a rare amulet. The necklace turns out to be absolutely nuts, but for the wrong class. But even as is, this 28% lightning resistance will do well for us. Would have loved this to be a paladin amulet though. Earlier I talked about why it was so nice to get a tool and arm rune early. With the Lazuk reward now available, I can finally show you why. It also explains why I call paladins Captain Privileged, beside the whole being the best class in the game thing I mean. Paladins get access to the spirit runeword very early on twice on shields with added resistances, so for the price of 4 low runes and the socket quest, we get an undeniably broken shield with +2 to skills, 33% faster cast rate, 55% faster hit recovery, 22 vitality and Sembilan Puluh Lima mana. This on its own would already be a strong contender for one of the best early game shields in the game, and by strong contender I mean it would blow everything else out of the water easily already. However, we are not just shopping smart, we are shopping as smart, cause this groovy little thing has 161 resistances on there as well. If you have a problem in Diablo 2, Spirit is your solution. The game is very streamlined from here on out until the end of, well, I was going to say normal, but realistically speaking I should probably imply nightmare. At this point of the game there are two things going on that allow me to treat the game like a carpenter. Firstly, I can throw an infinite amount of hammers. Secondly, there is a finite amount of things on my screen at any time. I don't have anything else to work with, so like the old adage says, when you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Allow me to demonstrate using these 3 gentlemen. They pretend to be relevant for a bit, but I just toss hammers until their health bar disappears. This will be the gameplay loop for the rest of this video. Something enters my screen, I toss hammers at it like I'm the protagonist from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And don't look at me like that, I know what I said. After all, we might not admit it, but deep inside we all root for the violent psychopath to take out the annoying teenagers in horror movies. In the Throne of Destruction, a very large group of burly deathlords decide that they don't agree with my outlook on life and start swinging their axes at me in a very Thunderbirds are go kind of way. See the double reference there by the way? I went and mentioned Outlook, then got it to Thunderbird, which is a competitor to Microsoft Outlook, and also curved it into Thunderbirds are go, completing the trifecta with an ancient TV show. Man, wordplay is fun. All of this definitely wasn't me sidetracking you to disguise that I had no idea how to be entertaining about the Minotaurs and me getting lost in the maze that is their endless love for axes and the hammers that nailed them down. I needed to string you along quite a bit, but I think we managed to cut it down. One great thing about double density runs is that you always are at a very high level, so Baal melts like a scented candle, leaving only the fresh smell of no loot, so you deserved it behind. With El Pollo Luto being dealt with, I make my way into the Dark Wood of Nightmare. In here I decide to showcase my adulation for the Sawney Bean clan by viciously attacking the locals and ransacking their corpses, because the rare amulet they dropped turned out to be the most bonkers bad fur day things I've ever seen on a solo self-found run. +1 to paladin skills, 10 faster cast rate and 36% fire resist. Whilst rereading this new piece of equipment again and again until my eyes dried out, I came to a conclusion. This thing is nuts. At this point, all I need is power. Power and more power, which means it is time for me to revisit the Countess. Along the way there, a group of hawks drops me a rune scepter that has +2 to blessed hammer, which is a perfect stand-in weapon until I get my second spirit. After telling the Countess that I'm back again, and she should go tell a friend, cause they'll never guess who is back, I inform her that something shady is going on, cause every once in a while my life total just decides to not be there for a bit. On a more serious note, if you don't know how to throw hammers around corners, this is how you do it. There is nothing to fear from an open door after all, only from closed ones. Thanks to Resurrected you can now also make insight in bows, and cause I haven't found a 4-socket polearm yet and beggars can't be choosers, I used the cedar bow I found instead. With level 17 meditation and a whole lot of other stats no one cares about, insight is the perfect weapon for me to get my mana situation solved. I wasn't in trouble to begin with, but thanks to spirit and this aura I have become an infinite whirlpool of hammery death. For my new mercenary I decided on Kyoko, not because I haven't made the Kyoko Ono joke enough just yet, but because she was the first one that I saw that had cold arrows for the crowd control I am sorely lacking. While my ball is never drained, my red ball most certainly dips and flips all around, but damage wise there is nothing to worry about according to the smith. My lack of survivability however is very concerning. At this point I'm just a glass cannon, so I need to start looking for some more safety. To try and get it I decide to my imbue quest on a circlet I picked up along the way. Chassis apparently likes what she sees, and as a result, so do I. 20% faster cast rate, 49% cold resist and 19 of all the others. Thank you kind smith. While my resistances weren't my biggest problem, they are now not a problem anymore at all. The main thing now is that I want a bigger life pool. In the Catacombs level 1 I come across a grey dimensional blade. It turns out to be a 4-socket one. While this does require a lot of stats, it guarantees me a spirit base. So for the next few levels I'm going to be working on the stats I need. A lot of words can be said about the Andariel fight, but there is no need to. She just walks into an impromptu episode of Will It Blend, and well, it turns out it most definitely will. Remember that long time ago when I talked about how I was going to get going on a spirit in a dimensional sword? I decided that the smart thing would be to go and get the strength first. This worked out perfectly, because I found a second sword I can make a spirit for. However, I don't have the dex for it, if the sarcasm wasn't clear yet. I now have 20 too many points invested into strength and I'm still short 12 dexterity. Figuring this will be my base, I make the spirit runeword. I end up rolling 31% faster cast rate and 105 mana. One thing I would bet money on is that a lot of people are jealous of me getting to work my way through the Maggot lair that has even more monsters with a Hammerdin. Well, just to flaunt it, cause I got it. This is what it looks like. It's like working your way through a clogged drain. All snarkiness aside though, while this isn't the best thing to do as a Hammerdin, given the current situation in which I am not very tanky, but I'm dealing a lot of damage. This does allow me to not get surrounded and just fight one monster at a time, toning down the risks quite a lot. So while tedious, this is one of the safer areas for me to play through. Seeing as how I'm not one to repeat jokes at all ever, remember the time I made a spirit runeword into a sword after I started putting points into strength because I found another sword I might have wanted to make a spirit in? Good, cause behind door number 1 there is a broadsword that drops to the floor. This weapon of course has 4 sockets, cause that is how this game works. Have the runes but don't have a base. Here you go, it's the worst one. Decided to compromise and take a reasonable base and put the runes in already. Well, get wrecked here is the perfect base. I love you too, game. Getting back to the theme of the video. When one door closes, another one opens. In this case, it's the wrong door though, and I wish it stayed closed, cause behind door number 2 is nothing but pain, so I decide to run and hope for better on the next door. Which I don't get, cause behind door number 3 is nothing but more pain. Having made my way through the temple, I decide that religion is not for me. Instead, I decide to visit the harem. In here, I realize I might just be the one who fluffs. In here, I yet again open a door and get rewarded with a clobbering. In here, I do end up reaching level 50, which means nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it gets me the dexterity I have been craving for. I get to equip the spirit sword. With 2 of the runeword equipped, I get to 129% faster cast rate. That is definitely balanced and not an unfair amount of faster cast rate at all. The arcane sanctuary is filled with ghosts. However, I ain't afraid of no ghost and bustin' makes me feel good. So the hammers start flying and the monsters start dying. Next up in a long line of massive slogs is Tal Rasha's tomb. In here, the monsters are just living it up and filling the area wall to wall. The cherry on top is yet another door that involves nothing but a bad time, so I leave. Duriel dropped a set amulet. This turned out to be the Tancred's amulet, which is okay if you combine it with other parts of the set. A big case of the sum outnumbering the parts, cause even wearing 2 parts of the Tancred's set gives the amulet 78% magic find, making it prime early game magic finding gear if you can get your hands on those pieces. There are no doors in the jungle, so there is no need to be afraid. Nothing can hurt me here, is what I tell myself while my life total is dropping so fast I'm worried it might drop through the bottom of the pool. The forest is a nice open area for me to swing my hammers in, but it also means that I am constantly surrounded on all sides. And while on the one hand I turn out to be an avid Saruman supporter and am just wiping out all the trees, on the other hand every single bridge feels like a bridge too far and has rows of flayers shooting at me while I'm trying to cross. I enter the Flayer dungeon with the hope of not encountering dolls. This hope is squashed the second I walk past the first hallway cause a swarm of dolls immediately flocks to me. Luckily, my secretary can take their inquiry and tell them to leave. The rest of the Flayer dungeon I can just play like a washing machine and swirl until the job is done. Which brings us to the sewers. While normally I despise this area, this time around I can use it to my advantage by missing that there are dolls right beside me, ready to pounce while I am dealing with their friends that can't reach me. Having made my way through all of Act 3, it is time for the final push, which starts at the Kurast Causeway. While this is normally an area you can make your way through easily enough, now it's like trying to swim against the waves of a hurricane, cause all I can do is just keep going and hope it ends at some point. After made the waves and reaching the Travancore waypoint, I figured I might as well pick up the 5 stat points. To do this, I head into the ruined temple. This temple turns out to be very aptly named today, cause I sure liked it more when it was not just a bunch of enemies trying to spawn camp me from the get-go. It's a good thing I'm a Hammerdin and the rules don't apply to me, cause this could have been dangerous. Quests are much easier when you're extremely over-leveled, so it just takes a few hammer throws and we can move our suffering along into the Durance of Hate. The last few of the dolls that escaped from the sewers reside in here. At this point though, I'm just convinced that live and live is the right way to go about things. So I decide to let them continue on, so they'll let me continue on as well. Boss fights are easy, so I did some spinning and winning against Mephisto and moved on to Act 4. One trend I noticed during this run is that the names for the places I go through are much more in line with what they have going on. For instance, here you see the Plains of Despair, and honestly, this area would drive me to madness if I wasn't already there. The lightning is sparking around everywhere because of the giant pile of souls, so I have to run around the area until I get lucky and Isual shows up, cause when he goes, everybody goes. Unfortunately, there is a limit to just how much that little trick works, so while the first few screens are now cleared, the others aren't, so I have quite a bit of running around to do still. In the River of Flame, I deal with Mephisto and his friends, allowing me to get the Hellforge quest rewards. It ends up dropping a Pole rune. That rune drop gives me access to the runeword wisdom. Not for us though, but for Kyoko. And it's all about that one mod at the top right there. The 33% chance to pierce. While it doesn't look like much. A third of the time this will make your arrows hit more targets for a single shot. Combined with the freezing arrow, this also stops enemies in their tracks. Making Kyoko into a fierce crowd controlling rogue. The nightmare version of the Chaos Sanctuary just feels right at home, so I make quick work of it and the demon that spearheads the franchise. On top of the bloody foothills is Shank, who despite my schedule being hammered, I decide to nail to the floor. As the reward for his quest, I get a socket, which I immediately decide to go to Larzok for. My lightning resistance needs help, so I put an Ort rune into the Plague Circlet. At this point of the run, I have vastly outleveled the areas, which means that even though a risky moment happens here or there, most of the act just isn't able to stop me from rushing through to the Ancients. The Ancients and me end up clashing, but we manage to hammer out the kinks of our disagreement and come to a solution that works for everyone. Or at least that is what I'm assuming, cause I'm hearing no complaints from them. Despite it being a massive bullet hell, I encounter no real resistance in the Worldstone level 1, so my mind starts to drift towards what I could encounter in the rest of the keep. Could it be knights? Could it be monsters? Could it be loot? No, it's souls. It's always souls. What else would it ever be? The only good part is that at least this group has none of them with a conviction aura, cause a paladin could die to that. I mean, I'm not saying he will, but he could. Wait, no, never mind. There's the conviction aura. Yes, game. Your point is clear, now stop it. After surviving all of that, Baal was a nice change of pace to clear out the second difficulty. 2 down, 1 more to go. Before getting into hell, I do need to get my house in order. First order of business is the Anya quest in the Frozen River. She is guarded by a lot of monsters, and I hate every moment of it, cause at this point I don't even know what I did to deserve this never-ending pile of souls. Was it the memes? Was it the saying the game is easy? Was it the 3 years of bullying the game for content? I don't know, but the game has had enough. I haven't though, so despite my better judgment, all of the souls get cleared and Anya gets saved. As my reward, I get a 36 resist all shield. I'm just getting all the quests that have rewards, which means that next on my list is the Den of Evil, and after clearing out the cave, I flush Radamant out of the sewers as well. Having gathered piles and piles of gold during all of this, I decide to do some gambling. And while I am not going to wear it, this cruel circlet managed to grab my attention. 2 to fire skills, 20 faster cast rate, 16 strength, 20 energy and 75 mana. Where was this on my energy only sorceress run? I couldn't have dreamed up a better helm than this for her. My next gear upgrade is this 23 Lightning 10 Fire Resist belt. I know this isn't a god tier sash or anything, but it beats out Hasara's no questions asked. This casual gambling session also decides to net me +3 to Javelin and Spear skill gloves, making the game's message of don't play paladins very much understood. And after making sure I am as broke financially as can be, it is time to get into hell and become broke emotionally as well. Level 67 and decent enough resists with almost 1200 life should be good, so let's go. At first, things don't look too bad at all. The Fallen take a bunch of hits and can't catch up to me. This however isn't true for the quill rats that decide to snipe me for 600 damage, just to show off they can. Scared of moving things along deeper into the act, I decide to go and pick up my order from the Den of Evil. While it's much busier here than normal, it's still not a dangerous place. A point I decided to drive home thoroughly. Sometimes upgrades just come on your path for free. In the underground passage I find 2 paladin shields. The first one isn't great, with 16 resist all and no sockets. The second one however is 4 sockets and has 23 resistances. The strength requirement is nice but not nice at the same time, but I've got the stats to wear it, meaning that I get a new spirit shield. It isn't the greatest upgrade since the creation of hammers or anything, but life is all about the little things. Despite the fire resistance needing some help, I'm happy with how things are looking. Golden numbers in the stats screen always mean safety and survival after all. As a paladin, I am very familiar with dark wood. I know all of it like the palm of my hand. Oh, wait, you mean the area? No, sorry, barely know it. I only pick up the scroll of Inifus there on my weekly trips through Sanctuary. Things get dire in the Black Marsh when a group of burly goatmen surround and corner me. Normally a pleasant experience, and I'm usually out prowling for fun times, but these goats just aren't doing it for me. My goat is the one and only Deckard Cain, who is currently taking a cat nap in his birdcage in Tristram. I want some better gear, so I decide to wake him up and see what he can get Akara to give us. She turns out to be stingy. 10 faster cast rate and poison resist is not going to cut it in the grand scheme of things. The door was already opened in the outer cloister. To the surprise of everyone I'm sure, this turns out to be a trap. Who could have ever seen that coming? If you had been looking through my health bar, you would have seen it a mile away, because it goes dangerously low as I managed to just barely rejuvenate in time. Hell is a dangerous place, so I decide to go into the pit to finish my build before moving on. During this I find a 5-socket thresher and a fall rune from the super chest at the end of level 2. To celebrate, I decide to give myself a heart attack by running straight into some cursed archers and just pumping the juices until either they or me are dead. Despite it getting pretty hairy there for a second, it turns out to be them. The rune drops continue when a random chest grants me a nice little rune. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but those are always very welcome. I am no Akara, so I decide to splurge on a ring in the only way I know how, by gambling like a degenerate. I overspent about 300,000 gold as my second ring was already a great gamble result with its 14 resist all. On my next run through the pit I find a rune from some skeletons. As my celebration I gamble some 220 gloves with resistance. Can't forget what the game actually wants me to be doing after all. I've been making jokes about the game telling me what it wants me to do, but it has been giving me the right tools as well, so it's time to be obedient to its will and put the runeword in the thresher. When I did my runeword tier list, I gave obedience a fantastic ranking, and every time I read the giant laundry list of great mods it has I remember why. Crushing blow, all resist, a ton of enhanced damage and a level 21 enchant trigger on killing enemy. I mean, look at that thing, 662 damage at the top. It is very rare I get to see numbers that big on gear during one of these runs. Kyoko can't wear a polearm, which means it is time to welcome Hazard to the team. I'll clear out the previous sidekick's old stuff. What's that, Hazard? You're worried the same thing will happen to you? Nah, don't worry about it, nothing bad will happen to you. Even better, we are going to get you some massive swag. Here, try this Bulwark Bone Visage with its 6 life leech, 5% maximum life and 15% physical damage reduction. I'll also get you a new breastplate that we are going to fit a duress into. Cold damage, crushing blow, open wounds, tons of resistances. What's not to love? With this equipment you won't even need my help anymore. You are just going to be cruising through the game, no problems. Even the mighty Diablo himself will be wetting his pants of terror when he learns you are on your way too. 11 seconds. Really? 11 fucking seconds? That is all you lasted? What do you mean it's almost 4 times what I usually last? Fine, I'll revive you again, but you're on thin ice, Hazard. Thin fucking ice. Along the way in the jail, a spider drops some rare gloves. These turn out to have stats and fire resist, which is the one I was still looking for. No wonder I have arachnophilia. The resistances are now practically perfect. I'm dealing over 5000 hammer damage and I have 1400 life with 400 mana. I don't see how I would ever fail this run. But like a wise man once said, life finds a way. So let's keep going to see if we can beat the game before it does. One thing I have been teasing this entire video is my fear of doors. All that is now about to change. Grab your favorite drink from the whiskey bar and let's get into the doors. When I open the door in the inner cloister, a group of fallen is knocking at my door about where they can find the next little girl. I don't know though, they seem slightly displeased, miffed even about this, so I'm just letting the hammers fall on them. I decide to fix my problems by doing some exposure therapy, so in the catacombs level 3 I open up every door I can find and do some slaughtering to prevail my phobia. On level 4 I deal with Andariel. It was a big exciting moment consistent of me obliterating her and her not offering any resistance and falling over dead. There was much rejoice and even more hype. Most of Act 2 isn't a big deal at all. However, in the Lost City, Captain Privileged here finally gets his check. This is one of the big reasons why Magic Hammer is so strong. You encounter your first immune enemy, not in the cold plains in normal like the fire builds do. No, instead you get to encounter your first immunes in the deserts of hell, and they are slow and easy to dodge. Life is all about fairness after all. I got stuck a few times, but it just doesn't matter against the slow zombies. The Claw Viper Temple is just a big test to see if you know how to throw a hammer around a door. If you do, you will win and move on. Level 2 is just a big open floor plan, and this is still very much a man wielding a hammer solving all his problems like they are able to fuse with Piccolo, which, for the people that didn't watch so much Dragon Ball Z, they can quote most of the show, means he is hammering them like a nail. At this point I have achieved something I had never expected. This run has gotten to such a high level that I just ran out of things I want to put skill points in. So this is my final skill build and I'm just not spending the points anymore. In the Maggot lair I'm just showcasing that I have become the blender of death, and on level 2 of the Maggot lair it's just second verse, same as the first. Let me add him and I'll put them in a hearse. Some places you don't expect to be challenging turn out to be the biggest challenges of a run. The Palace Cellar level 2. Normally a quiet area you just ignore while complaining about how one of the best soundtracks of the game only has this little bit of playtime. I know it feels long and sounds like plenty, but 30 seconds really isn't as long as I want to convince you it is. At the end of the Arcane Sanctuary I deal with the Summoner and his minions. The minions were a challenge, cause they fill up everything as much as the game will allow them. The Summoner was also there. His death was yet another big moment with much hype. I have some post-traumatic slap disorder when a group of ghosts decide that they failed at being ghosts and needed me to open the door for them. You're welcome, by the way. While this door looks like just another test of hammer throwing skill, it is not. Cause no matter how I'm throwing down, I'm not hitting anything, I don't know how or why. But instead of getting to do the safe thing, I have to rush in and hope for the best. A plan I am very used to, but is still dangerous. Remember kids, do this at home. You're immortal until you hit your 30s. Don't question me about it. The rest of the tomb is pretty uneventful except for this burr rune right here. I don't know why I keep finding these, and even though I teased selling it all the way back in the intro. Remember the intro? That was a long time ago. A beautiful time. A simpler time. Instead though, I just put it in my stash, where it will be safe and nothing can ever happen to it. After making my way to Duriel, I get to squish him like a bug. Upon his demise he drops a unique amulet. It turns out to be a Mahim Oak Curio, which is okay. I don't need it particularly, but this is just a decent amulet all around. I just wish it had a level requirement of 10. One very wild night we can talk about with the spiders later. I pick up Kalim's eye. The spider forest is all about hoping you have a Flayer jungle skip so you don't have to do the Great Marsh, cause if you have to, there could be some stuff in there you don't want to deal with. On my way through, a unique ring falls to the floor from a fetish, which turns out to be a 16% magic fine Nagel. My gear is pretty set in stone at this point, so I don't even bother keeping it. I make it to the end of the spider forest without finding a Flayer jungle skip, so now I have to wonder what kind of enemies I will have in the Great Marsh. Man, it is such a question. Whatever could I have in my near future? Yep, still always souls. Well, no point in mourning what could have been, so I start making my way through. The entire marsh isn't that great at all with just a non-stop barrage of gloams at every turn. Millimeter by millimeter I inch my way through here, dealing with gloam after gloam in a battle of wills to see who gives up first. My laptop, my paladin, the game, me, who knows? The game isn't holding back at all anymore at this point. Not only is it just the Gloam Marsh, it's also champion pack into boss pack into boss pack. I asked for some power and the game obliged by filling a screen full with lightning while a conviction aura boss pack was in front of me. I managed to get rid of them on time, but the aura hadn't worn off yet. And just like that, after hours of doing good enough, it all ends in the span of a second. Don't worry, I will try this again. It's still my goal to clear this challenge with every class and I'm only halfway there. For now though, this is the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. A special thanks to the channel and Patreon members and I will see you all in the next one.